Picture this. You're in a really high-stakes meeting, right? Or maybe you're sitting there writing a critical email.
Right, something where every word matters.
Exactly. And you have this brilliant idea in your head, perfectly formed. But when you actually try to express it, the words that come out just feel like, I don't know, blunt instruments.
Like you're using a hammer for everything.
Yes. You know a lot of English vocabulary, sure, but it feels like you're working with this incredibly basic toolkit. You have a hammer and you just sort of hit everything with it. You're hungry, you use the hammer. You're trying to explain a complex business strategy.
You just swing that hammer really hard.
Right. And people generally understand you, sure, but the finesse is missing.
Well, it's functional. I mean, you survived the conversation, but surviving really isn't the same as succeeding.
Totally.
Because when you're operating at a higher level, whether that's advancing your career or studying at a university or just, trying to be deeply understood by someone, you don't need a hammer anymore. You need a scalpel.
A scalpel. Exactly. And that is exactly what we are doing on the Deep Dive today. We are taking your English toolkit and upgrading it to that advanced B2-C1 level.
I love it.
But we're operating under one non-negotiable rule today. Advanced vocabulary should make your thinking clearer, not just make your sentences longer.
Yeah, I am so glad we're setting that ground rule right off the bat, because there is a massive trap when you're trying to level up your language skills.
Oh, the temptation to sound smart.
Yes, it's the temptation to just memorize the longest, most complicated words possible. But the goal isn't to sound like you, swallowed a 19th century dictionary.
Right, nobody wants to talk to that person.
Exactly. The goal is precision. We want you to sound intelligent, practical, and completely natural in everyday conversations.
Precision over pretension. I like that. So let's start right at the beginning. That moment you need to take an idea out of your head and share it with absolute clarity.
Because the way you frame an idea completely changes how people perceive your intelligence.
It really does. So take a word that gets thrown around a lot. Complicated. When you say something is complicated, it often sounds like you're just overwhelmed by it.
Like it's too much for you to handle.
Exactly. But there's a better word that completely changes the psychological dynamic, and that word is nuanced.
Nuanced. Yeah, that's a great one. It means having small but incredibly important differences. An answer that isn't overly simple.
And where do we usually hear it?
Oh, it's heavily used in educated, academic, media, and professional contexts. When you use nuanced instead of complicated, you are signaling that there is no simple yes or no answer. But more importantly, you're signaling that you're in control of that complexity. You see the layers.
It's sort of like the difference between looking at a painting from 50 feet away, where it just looks like one flat color, and, stepping up close to see all the individual brushstrokes.
That's a perfect analogy.
So, for instance, you might say, we need a more nuanced discussion about remote work because the benefits depend on the team and the role.
Right. So let's act out a quick mini dialogue. Ask me point blank if working from home is better.
Okay. Is working from home better than working in the office?
I'd say I think the answer is more nuanced than that. See? It immediately shows you grasp the full picture.
Yeah, it sounds so much more confident. Now, actually, delivering that nuanced idea requires you to be what we call articulate.
Which basically means being able to express ideas clearly and effectively. It's an incredibly positive descriptor in professional or academic settings. But we really have to address a major misconception here.
About accents, right?
Yes. Being articulate has absolutely nothing to do with having a specific accent. A person can have any accent in the world, make minor grammar mistakes, and still be profoundly articulate.
Because it's about the structure.
Exactly. It is about how logically you organize your thoughts.
I've worked with people from all over the world, and honestly, the ones who command the room are the ones whose ideas flow clearly, regardless of their native language.
Right. You might observe a colleague and say, she is very articulate when she explains complex ideas.
Okay, let's do a dialogue. Say we're gossiping after a meeting. I'll ask, why did everyone listen so carefully to him?
And I'd respond, because he was calm, articulate, and easy to follow.
So good. And when someone is that articulate, the ideas they share are often insightful. I want to pause on this word because it feels like a massive upgrade from a word we just overuse constantly.
Oh, let me guess. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting is the ultimate hammer. I mean, it can mean anything from I love this to I am incredibly bored but being polite.
Totally.
Insightful, on the other hand, means showing a deep or accurate understanding of something. When you praise someone's comment or analysis by calling it insightful, you are giving them a compliment with real psychological weight.
It tells them they revealed something hidden.
Right, it makes the other person feel truly seen and smart. You could tell a colleague that was an insightful point about how small habits shape long-term success.
Let's act it out. Say you pitch a new perspective, and I say, wow, I never thought about it that way.
And a third person might chime in and validate it by saying, yes, her explanation was really insightful.
Nice. Now, what if you need to push an idea forward? Like make it impossible to ignore. That's when your argument needs to be compelling.
Very convincing, interesting, or difficult to ignore. You hear this constantly in media and professional environments. It's used for arguments, evidence, stories, presentations.
Because a compelling argument doesn't just present facts, right?
Exactly. It makes the listener feel a sense of urgency.
Like the report makes a compelling argument for investing in better training. Let's do the dialogue. I'm debriefing a pitch with you. Did the presentation change your opinion?
Yes, the evidence was pretty compelling.
All right, so you've clearly articulated a nuanced idea, but let's face reality. As soon as you start putting ideas into the real world, you hit roadblocks.
Always. Problems arise.
Right, and how you describe a problem dictates how quickly it gets solved. You can't just point at the symptoms. You have to look for what's beneath them. You have to find the underlying issue.
Underlying. It refers to the deeper or hidden cause beneath a visible problem. It is essential in business, psychology, medicine, really any analytical field.
Because if you only look at symptoms, you're just putting a bandage on a broken arm.
Right. Using this word forces the conversation down to the root causes.
It's like pulling weeds in a garden, you know? If you only cut the top, it just grows back. You have to find the underlying root.
Yeah, or an IT crash. You don't just reboot the monitor.
Exactly. You could say the underlying issue is not motivation. It is lack of clear priorities. Let's say I'm a manager complaining people keep missing deadlines.
And I'd step in and say, maybe we should look at the underlying cause.
And sometimes that cause is just a breakdown in communication, which is where mastering vocabulary can save you from a lot of office conflict.
Oh, for sure.
If a client sends you an incredibly confusing email, you don't want to reply and say, you're confusing me. That puts them on the defensive. Instead, you say the situation is ambiguous.
Ambiguous, meaning not completely clear because it can be understood in more than one way. It's a completely neutral word.
Which is the magic of it.
Right. By using it, you are removing the blame from the person and placing it on the situation or the document itself.
Yeah.
It is infinitely more precise and polite than saying confusing.
Like the instructions were ambiguous, so different teams interpreted them differently. You're just stating a fact. Let's act it out. I'll lean over and say, I am not sure what this email means.
And I'll agree and say, I agree. The wording is a bit ambiguous.
Smooth. Okay, once you've defined the problem, you have to measure it. Is it a tiny glitch, or is it going to derail the entire quarter? The word significant does a lot of heavy lifting here.
It does. Significant means important, large enough to matter, or worth paying attention to. It's much more formal than just saying big. It implies that the size of the thing has crossed a threshold where it will actually change the outcome.
For example, there's been a significant improvement in customer satisfaction this quarter. Let's try the dialogue. I'll propose a change to a project plan and ask, is the change small?
And I'd reply, no, it is significant enough to affect the whole project.
And because it's significant, it's going to have a ripple effect. It's going to have implications.
Implications. The possible effects or consequences of a decision, event, or idea.
I love this word.
It's great. It shows you are thinking like a chess player, 3 steps ahead. In serious business or academic conversations, people who only think about the immediate result tend to lose. People who think about the implications win.
You're forcing the room to look at tomorrow, not just today. Like, before we choose this strategy, we need to consider the long-term implications. Say we're looking at a vendor proposal. I'll say, this option looks cheaper.
True, but what are the implications for quality?
Okay, so we've dug into the underlying problems and weighed the implications. Now the team starts pitching solutions. How do we evaluate if an idea is actually going to work?
You need a technical check and you need a reality check.
Right. The technical check is asking if the idea is feasible.
Feasible means possible and realistic to do. It's the word you use when you are bumping up against practical limits like budget, physics, or time.
So it's better than possible.
Yes, because lots of things are theoretically possible but not feasible with the resources you actually have.
Makes sense. Like, the idea is interesting, but I am not sure it is feasible with our current budget. Let's do the dialogue. I'm the boss. Can we finish everything by Friday?
It might not be feasible unless we reduce the scope.
Okay, now for the reality check.
Right.
Just because something is feasible, like you technically have the budget and the time, doesn't mean it's practical.
Exactly. Practical means useful, realistic, and focused on what can actually be done in the real world with real people. It contrasts heavily with being theoretical or idealistic.
Right, like a software system might be feasible to build, but if your employees need a PhD just to use it, it's not practical.
Spot on.
We need a practical solution that people can use immediately. Okay, I'll pitch a highly complex workflow to you. The idea sounds impressive.
Yes, but is it practical?
Okay, let's say it is practical. The next test is longevity. Is it sustainable?
Yeah.
And I want to clarify something here, because sustainable usually makes people think of like green energy, recycling, environmental policy.
Sure.
Does it only apply to that?
Not at all. The core meaning is just being able to continue for a long time without causing serious problems. So while it applies to the environment, in professional and personal contexts, it applies heavily to human habits, health, and work cultures.
Oh, so it's like the antidote to burnout culture.
Yes. It's the difference between sprinting for 60 seconds and pacing yourself for a marathon.
So like pulling all-nighters to launch a product. Working 12 hours a day is not sustainable, even if it works for 1 week. Let's say I'm your friend and I say, I can study 4 hours every night.
I'd check you and ask, that sounds intense, but is it sustainable?
Because if it's not, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
Which brings it to the reality of making choices. Every choice requires a trade-off.
A trade-off is a situation where you gain one thing but lose or reduce another. It makes your English sound highly analytical. You're acknowledging that no solution is perfect.
It's sort of like being a producer at a soundboard in a recording studio. If you push the bass slider way up, you often have to pull the treble down a bit to keep the mix clear. You can't just push every slider to maximum.
Great analogy.
There is always a trade-off between speed and quality. Let's act it out. I'll say, this option is faster.
And I'll remind you, yes, but the trade-off is less flexibility.
All right, let's shift gears. You've evaluated the ideas and you realize you disagree with someone.
Okay.
How do you communicate your opposing opinion gracefully? Because corporate politics are basically an ego minefield.
Oh, complete.
We need phrases that sound diplomatic but intelligent. The first tool here is the phrase, I would argue that.
It's a confident, thoughtful way to introduce an opinion. It's much more analytical than just saying, I think, which can sometimes sound a bit weak.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it softens the ego. By saying, I would argue, you are inviting the other person into a debate of ideas rather than stating a hard fact that backs them into a corner.
Right. It's reasoned, not aggressive. Like, I would argue that consistency is more important than intensity when learning a language. Let's debate a higher. Is talent the most important factor?
I would argue that discipline matters more.
Another brilliant pressure release valve in a disagreement is the phrase, to some extent.
This means partly true, but not completely true. It is the ultimate diplomatic tool in a nuanced discussion.
Because it lets you validate them.
Exactly. It lets you validate a piece of the other person's argument, which makes them feel heard, before you introduce your counterpoint.
To some extent, I agree with you, but the situation is more complicated. Imagine I'm a frustrated colleague venting to you, so money is the main problem.
To some extent, yes, but time is also a major factor.
Now, what if they make a point that completely changes your perspective? Like, you want to acknowledge it, but shift the lens. You say, that raises an important question.
You use this when someone's point leads to a deeper issue or a very useful discussion. It's highly professional. It flatters the person who just spoke while actively moving the conversation forward into new territory.
That raises an important question about how we measure success. Let's say we're reviewing a new software rollout. I'll say, the new tool saves time, but people do not trust it.
That raises an important question about training.
And when those conversations start getting, a little too philosophical, you need to pull everyone back to earth with the phrase, in practical terms.
This focuses the room on what something means in real life or in action. You use it when ideas become way too abstract.
Let me push back on this one, though. If I'm in a meeting and someone is passionately outlining their grand vision, and I say, well, in practical terms, doesn't that make me sound like I'm dismissing their theory, like I'm bursting their bubble?
Well, it's all in the delivery, but fundamentally, no, it doesn't dismiss the idea. It grounds the idea in reality so it can actually succeed. You're building a bridge between their lofty theory and the actual execution required to make it happen.
Okay, that makes sense. In practical terms, this means we need 2 extra weeks. Say HR rolls out a complex new mandate. I'll say the policy sounds clear.
Yes, but in practical terms, how will we apply it?
We are down to our final 4 words. These are the polish. Words that simply give your English a highly competent edge without making you sound arrogant. The first is coherent.
Logical, clear, and easy to understand as a whole. It's a fantastic word for discussing arguments, plans, or writing. It is light years beyond just saying something is good, because it explicitly complements the architecture and logic of the idea.
The proposal is coherent, but it needs stronger evidence. Say I just pitched an idea and I ask you, was my explanation clear?
Yes, it was coherent and easy to follow.
Then we have relevant.
Connected to the topic or important for the situation, it's a polite, neutral anchor that helps keep conversations focused when people start going off on tangents.
That example is interesting, but it is not relevant to the main problem. Let's say I'm prepping for an interview and I ask, should I include this story in my presentation?
Only if it is relevant to your main point.
Next is subtle. This is like the seasoning in the dish.
Subtle means small, delicate, or not obvious, but still incredibly important. It's used for emotions, differences, and tones. You use it when something matters deeply, but it takes an expert eye or ear to notice it.
There is a subtle difference between being direct and being rude. Let's say we're analyzing a competitor's ad campaign and I say, I do not hear the difference.
It is subtle, but it changes the tone.
And our final word today is thoughtful.
Careful, considerate, and showing real thought. It has a beautiful, warm register to it. It perfectly bridges the gap between describing someone's intelligent thinking and their kind behavior.
Her feedback was thoughtful and specific, not just polite. I might ask, did his comment help?
Yes, it was thoughtful and practical.
All right, we've walked through the psychology and the execution of all these words. Now it's time for a real-world translation exercise. Let's see how our core rule-making thoughts clearer, not just longer works in practice.
I love this part. Listener, we are going to look at 6 very basic, perfectly acceptable sentences, the kind you probably use every day. As you hear the simple version, I want you to pause in your mind. Think about how you would upgrade it using the vocabulary we've just unpacked. Then we'll give you the optimized version.
Okay, sentence 1. Simple version. This problem is bigger than it looks. How would you upgrade that to sound more analytical?
The better version. There may be an underlying issue we need to understand. Notice how it shifts from panic to investigation.
Sentence 2. Simple. I think this idea is good.
Let's give that more weight. Better. I would argue that this is a compelling and practical idea.
Sentence 3. Simple. This plan can work.
Better. This plan seems feasible, but we should consider the trade-offs. You've just shown you understand the technical reality and the cost.
Number 4. Simple. I kind of agree, but not completely.
Much more diplomatic. To some extent, I agree, but I think the situation is more nuanced.
Number 5. Simple. What does this mean for us?
Elevate it to a strategic level. What are the practical implications for our team?
And the final one. Simple. Your explanation was easy to understand.
Give them a compliment that actually hits home. Better. Your explanation was clear, coherent, and articulate.
The difference in authority between those simple sentences and the upgraded ones is staggering. It really is. Let's do a rapid-fire review of the 20 items we covered to cement them.
We looked at the words that clarify our thinking. Nuanced, articulate, insightful, and compelling. We dissected problems with underlying ambiguous, significant, and implications.
We evaluated those solutions using feasible, practical, sustainable, and trade-off. We navigated disagreements diplomatically with. I would argue that, to some extent, that raises an important question, and in practical terms.
And we polished it all off with coherent, relevant, subtle, and thoughtful.
That is a serious toolkit. But this brings us to the final and most crucial step of this deep dive. Having these words in a list doesn't do you any good if you can't access them when the pressure is on.
Exactly. Don't try to memorize all 20 words right now. It's not practical. Instead, choose exactly 5 words from this list that resonate with your actual life right now. Here is your study task. I want you to write a sentence for each of those 5 words about your own work, your studies, your opinions, or your daily life. Why? Because advanced vocabulary only truly transforms your thinking when it becomes personal to you.
It's time to put the hammer away. You've got the scalpel now. Start carving out those clear, precise, compelling thoughts. Good luck applying your upgraded toolkit to your world, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.